Welcome to Mrs. Hicks' version of the prologue of the Canterbury Tales. Yo, when April rolls through bringing them sweet vibes with the fruit, the March drought got wrecked, it's filling deep straight to the root. That rain hits hard, dripping that life juice with mad power, kicking things into gear, turning up the flyers like a final hour. Zephyrs breathing fresh air, bringing heat back to the land, reviving every bush and shoot, life in his hands. The sun's climbing high, halfway through Aries, no doubt. Birds chirping loud, staying up, eyes wide, no doubt. Nature's got 'em hyped, they ramp up, they rage. Now people feel the urge to get out like a pilgrimage stage. Palmers hitting new shores, searching for blessed ground, trekking far and wide for shrines that hold the sound. And from every corner of England they dip to Canterbury's Inn. They seek the holy martyr who's healed 'em when they couldn't fend. So check it. On a random day in that season, I was chillin' in Southwark at the Tabard, ready to bounce for my pilgrimage to Canterbury. All about that Devite life. You feel me? As night rode in, a crew of like 29 folks rode up to that spot. All different peeps who just happened to link up. They were all pilgrims, ready to ride out to Canterbury, no cap. The rooms were mad spacious, the stables too. We were living it up in style, the best vibes, no stress. And by the time the sun dipped, I had already hollered at every single one of them. We were all tight, part of the same crew, ready to roll together. We made a plan to wake up early, hit the road, and I'm going to keep you posted on what went down, fam. Alright, before I dive deeper into the story, let me break it down real quick. While I still got time and space to spill the tea, it feels right to let you know who's who in this crew. I'll give you the lowdown on everyone, who they are, what they're about, and how they were rocking it at the end. First up, I'ma start with the knight. Let's go. There was this knight, a total boss. Since day one of writing out, he was all about that knightly vibe. Truth, honor, freedom, and being super chill. He crushed it in his Lord's Wars, traveling farther than anyone, both in Christian lands and beyond, and earned mad respect everywhere he went. He was at Alexandria when it fell, led the squad in Prussia, raided Latvia in Russia. No one of his rank had done it more. He fought at the siege of Algeciras in Granada, rode through Bellemare, and was at big wins in places like Aias and Stastili. He hit up the Mediterranean for epic battles, fought in 15 wars, and took out enemies in tournaments for the faith 3 times. He even rode with the Lord of Palatine to take on foes in Turkey, always walking away a winner. For all that glory, he stayed humble, chill, and quiet, like he didn't need to show off. Never talked smack or acted shady. He was the ultimate good guy. Now, about his gear. His horses were solid, but he wasn't flashy. He wore a simple stain outfit, still marked up from his armor. He had just came back from one trip and was already off on this pilgrimage. Rolling up with his crew was this dude's son, a fresh young player all about fun. Lover boy, smooth and bachelor bold, curly locks tight like they'd been scrolled. Maybe 20, no more, no less, built solid, strong, and full of finesse. This guy had rolled with the cavalry squad in Flanders, Artois, and Picardy, no fraud. Did his thing like a champ in the mix, trying to catch the eye of some lady's fix. Decked out fly like a walking bouquet, rocking red and white flowers like it's spring all day. Dude was vibing, singing, flute in hand, fresh as May like he owned the land. Short coat flowing, sleeves wide and free, riding like a pro for all to see. Could drop bars, bust moves, sketch it right, joust and dance, flexing day and night. He was lit, love burning like a flame, up all night, chasing hearts in the game. Mad polite, real chill, down to serve, cutting for his pops every curve. His ride or die was a yeoman, tight and lean, solo crewed up, rocking hunter green. Peacock arrows strapped sharp and sleek, gear locked tight, no room for weak. With a crop cut and a face sun-baked, he knew the woods like moves were staked. Arm bracer gleaming, sword on his side, dagger shining, ready for the ride. Chain reppin', St. Chris, silver flash seen, horn slung low, strap glistening green. A forest boss, no doubt in his role, sharp and ready in full patrol. Yo, rolling with this crew was this nun, a prioress. Smooth was her smile, shy, but she was fresh. Her big sweater, just by St. Eloi, she'd flex, known in the streets as Madame Ageling Complex. She could sing that church vibe, her voice on point, nasal flow smooth like she owned the joint. French, yes, she spoke it, Stratford style, but Paris slang, nah, that wasn't her profile. At the table, girl had manners locked tight. No crumbs dropped, she ate polite. No sauce on her fit, no mess in her zone. Not a grease stain seen when her wine was gone. She reached for her meals like a queen at play. Classy, sweet, her vibe made your day. Real chill, full of charm and flair. Always trying to act like a lady debonair. Her heart, soft as a marshmallow, no cap. She'd cry if a mouse got stuck in a trap. Handsome tiny dogs, spoiled to the core, fed them fine bread and roast, nothing poor. If one got hurt, she'd bawl like a song. Her pity game strong, her tears came along. Her style, tight. Her wimple game clean. Her nose sharp, eyes blue like glass gleam. Lips soft, red, and her forehead wide. She wasn't short, had that tall nun pride. A coral bracelet, beads in green, with a gold brooch that straight up gleamed. An A crowned high with the flex it showed, and love conquers all was the code it rode. Rolling deep, her crew was tight, a little nun and 3 priests in sight. Yo, this monk was a straight up boss, no doubt, riding high, living big, taking the wild route. Man had muscle, built for the throne, kept a whole stable of horses he owned. When he rolled, his bridle straight sang, clinking in the wind like a chapel bell rang. Old school monk rules? He wasn't about that. St. Benny's vibe was dusty and flat. He laughed at the line about hunters and sin, said, keep your cloister, I'm out here to win. Books and sweating? Nah, he wasn't down. Let the grind boys hustle, he'd claim the crown. Day and night, this dude hit the trail, greyhounds flying like they had no fell. Chasing hares? That was his jam. No expense spared, he lived like a champ. His sleeves dripped with fur so clean, gold pin on his hood, a love knot gleam. Head so bald it shined like a dime, face smooth as silk, living prime time. Big man swagger, packed with heat, eyes blazing red like fire in the street. Soft boots laced his horse top tier. This monk wasn't starving, he ate real clear. Fat swan roast, that was his vibe. No cheap eats here, just high class tribe. His horse rode up, sleek and steady, brown like a berry, flexing and ready. Hubert was that smooth talking hustler everyone knew. He wasn't just your regular holy man. Nah, he had the streets on lock. Need a wedding sorted? Hubert handled it, no problem. And he'd even front the cash to get it done right. Dude was the plug for everything, and he made sure everyone knew it. Confessions, oh, Hubert made those easy. Drop a little silver in my pocket, and your sins gone. Clean slate. Folks loved that. No guilt, no stress, just business. He wasn't wasting time on broke people either. He kicked it with the rich and the powerful, making sure his pockets stayed lined. And let's not forget the ladies. Hubert always had something for them, a shiny knife or a little gift to keep them smiling. He didn't mess with lepers or beggars. Nah, he was in the taverns, laughing with bartenders and flirting with barmaids. That was his scene, and he owned it. When it came to his look, Hubert didn't play. His robes, fancy. His coat, top-notch. He walked around like a boss, talking smooth, even throwing in a little lips to sound extra sweet. Hubert was the guy you wanted to know, and he made sure you didn't forget it. This merchant, straight baller vibes. He rode on a big horse, dripping in swag, flashing coat, a fancy beaver hat, and boots so clean they sparkled. Everything about him said, I'm winning and you're not. When he spoke, it was all about the grind. I'm out here making moves, he'd say, always talking up his wins. He didn't bother with losses, those didn't exist in his world. He controlled the sea routes like a king, making sure his money flowed nonstop. Nobody could figure out how he did it, but this guy stayed debt-free. His game was tight, always flipping deals and handling business like a pro. He kept his secrets close, though, even his name. You'd know him by his vibe, not his ID. Yo, the clerk was straight up bookworm with a straight edge. Dude didn't care about looking fly. He rode up on a raggedy horse that looked like it hadn't eaten in weeks. His threads were so worn out, you'd think he got them from a thrift shop clearance bin. But don't get it twisted. He wasn't broke, just invested in a different kind of grind. This guy wasn't about stocking cash or flexing chains. Nah, his riches were up in his brain. His crib, stacked with books, top to bottom. Aristotle, philosophy, he had the whole lineup. Any coin he got went straight to adding to the collection. Forget food, forget fresh kicks. He was feeding his mind, not his stomach. When he opened his mouth, it wasn't for small talk. Every word was like a knowledge grenade, straight to the point and full of heart. People listened because they knew he wasn't out here wasting breath. He was about respect, not clout, dropping wisdom like a G dropping bars. He wasn't out there hustling for a church gig or trying to get some fancy title. Nah, he was on a different level, chasing that knowledge grind. He borrowed cash just to get more books, then send prayers up for the ones who helped him out. The clerk, he wasn't flashy, but his game was strong. Quiet, sharp, and always learning. He played the long game, leveling up while everyone else was out here chasing short-term wins. The dude was like the OG of the legal game, always posted up at Paul's Walk, laying down advice to whoever needed it. He had that serious vibe, the kind where you know he ain't messing around. People gave him respect because when he talked, it was all wisdom, no fluff. He'd been on the judge's bench plenty of times, rolling with the crown's stamp of approval. Big-time clients paid him fat stocks, and his closet full of robes, each one more expensive than the last. His hustle was unmatched. Dude knew how to scoop up land deals so clean no one could question his moves. He stayed looking busy, always in the mix, but low-key, he wasn't grinding as hard as he made it seem. He was the go-to guy for digging up old case laws, had receipts from back in King William's day all the way up. And when it came to contracts, his paper was so tight you couldn't find a single crack. But don't think he was flashy. His fit was low-key, a patchwork coat and a silk belt. Nothing loud, just enough to let folk know he was about his business. This man, straight up about the good life, big white beard, big energy, and big on that morning sip of wine. His vibe was all about living large. He rode like a boss in his hood, throwing feasts that could put a king to shame. If you stepped into his crib, it was like walking into a dream. Tables stacked with food, drink, and all the fancy stuff money could buy. He didn't just eat, he made sure everything was perfect. His cooks knew the deal. Mess up a sauce, and it was game over. Dude wasn't just about himself, though. He was a big name in that county, running things as sheriff and holding it down as a knight of the shire. Always dressed sharp with a silk dagger, strapped in clean gear, he made sure everyone knew he was the real deal. No one in the game could touch his level of respect. Yo, there was this crew, a bunch of straight-up hustlers. Had a haberdasher, carpenter, arrays maker, dyer, and weaver all rolling together. Squad goals, right? They were all rocking matching outfits, looking clean and fresh. Their gear wasn't some cheap knockoff. Nah, it was top tier. Silver trim, no plastic vibes. Even their belts and pouches were on point, made with that really real quality. These guys were the definition of boss material, looking like they could be chilling in the boardroom. If they weren't hustling hard, they could have been running things as aldermen, no joke. They had the cash, the property, all the assets, and their wives were totally on board. No drama there. It was all about flexing that Madame title and showing off at church with their cloaks looking royal and all that. This guy, straight fire in the kitchen. He could roast, boil, fry, bake, you name it. His soups were thick, his pies on point, and he knew how to season with just the right kick. But yo, the man wasn't perfect. He had this nasty sore on his leg. Kind of made you think twice about eating his blanc-mange, even if it tasted like the best in the game. Now this dude was rough around the edges, straight out of Dart's mouth. He didn't care about looking good. His cloak was rugged, his horse was beat, but his game was tight. Always had a dagger strapped up, ready for whatever. His face sunburned like he'd been battling the ocean his whole life. He wasn't exactly a saint, more like a pirate. He'd swipe wine from sleeping traders without batting an eye. And if he ever got into a fight, let's just say his enemies didn't make it back on land. But when it came to navigating, he was untouchable. Tides, harbors, moon phrases, he had it all down. Dude had seen storms that would make most men cry, but he kept it pushing his ship, Madeline, riding steady. From the England coast to Spain, he knew every nook and cranny of the sea. This cat was a real deal in the healing game. If you were sick, he was the one you called, no questions asked. He had the streets buzzing with his skills in machine and surgery, but his secret weapon, the stars. Yeah, he was all about that astrology life, using horoscopes and cosmic vibes to figure out what ailed you. He could break down every sickness like he was decoding a street code. Hot, cold, wet, dry, didn't matter. Dude knew the root of every problem. Once he had you figured out, he'd hook you up with his crew of apothecaries, sliding you the good stuff to make you right. And trust, he and his partners were stacking gold off that setup. No new newbie hustle. This was old money moves. He'd been deep in the scrolls of the OG medical legends, Hippocrates, Galen, Avicen, you name it. He ate clean too, no over the top feast, just what kept him running smooth. Religion, not his scene. Gold was his real god, for he kept every coin he earned curing folks during plagues. His fit, blue and scarlet, all lined with silk fabric, flashy but not too much. He was all about stocking, not spending. Now this woman, a straight up powerhouse. She ran the cloth game so tight she had folks from Yelps and Get sweaty. But don't cross her in church. If you tried to outshine her during offerings, she'd hit you with a look that scorched the pews. Her drip was unmatched, head wraps so heavy they'd probably snap a weaker neck. Scarlet red hose, fresh kicks, and a face that told you she wasn't here to play. She'd been through the ringer, 5 husbands deep, plus a few side stories from back in the day that she wasn't spilling. World traveler, 2, Jerusalem 3 times, plus Rome, San Diego calling. She had stories for days about the road, rocking a gap-toothed smile that somehow made her swagger even harder. Her ride smooth as silk, with a brood hat shading her, and a big old rug keeping her cozy. She could laugh, joke, and roast with the best of them, but don't sleep. She knew the game of love inside and out, and like a veteran of the streets. This parson, he was different. No fancy robes, no big house, just a dude doing the Lord's work out in the trenches. He didn't just preach, he lived it, walking miles through rain and mud to check on his flock. Didn't matter if you were rich or broke, sick or sinning, he was at your door ready to help. He wasn't about the money either. Dude was handing out his own cash and goods to the ones who needed it, living simple and staying grateful. His parish was spread out, but he never let distance stop him. Rain, thunder, whatever, it didn't faze him. And when he spoke, people listened. He didn't sugarcoat things, though. If you were out of line, he'd call you on it, sharp and to the point. But he wasn't all fire and brimstone. He was gentle with it, like a big brother looking out. He wasn't one of those priests chasing clout or running to the city for gigs that paid better. Nah, he stayed home, keeping the wolves off his people and leading by example. He walked the walk, plain and simple, and his whole mission was to guide folks to heaven, not through fear, but through the way he carried himself. There was this chill dude, a farmer, who was tight with his bro. He hauled tons of junk, yep, even poop, without a fuss, 'cause he was a real one, always working hard, living drama-free and spreading good vibes. He was all about loving God, full on, no half measures, whether he was chilling or grinding at his craft, and he treated everyone like family, no cap. He hustled, plowing fields, digging dirt, without ever chasing clout. All out of love, just like Jesus taught. He'd help the broke folks for free if he could swing it. Oh, and taxes, dude paid up fair and square, using his own grind and whatever cash he made. He cruised around on a basic course in a no-frills fit. The Miller was the big, tough dude, like super strong. When it came to wrestling, he was unbeatable. He could literally pull a door off its hinges or smash through it with the head if he wanted. He had a huge red beard, kind of wild and bushy, and a wart on his nose with a tuft of hair sticking out of it. All grass, all gross and weird. His nostrils were big and black too. He carried a sword and a shield around. This guy had a big mouth, and he loved to joke around, usually about naughty stuff. He was also kind of shady, stealing corn and charging people extra. But hey, he was good at getting away with it. He wore a white coat and a blue hood and carried around a bagpipe, which he played as he led us out of town. So this dude was the man simple, working at a low court, right? He was the plug when it came to knowing how to buy food and drinks. He knew all the markets, when to buy stuff, and never got caught slipping, even if he didn't have cash on hand. It's crazy though, because even though he wasn't some big shot lawyer, he was way smarter than a lot of them. He worked with over 30 top lawyers, dudes who knew everything about the law. Some of them were even qualified to run estates and manage land for nobles. But this more simple, he outsmarted all of them. The Reeve was a super skinny, kinda grumpy guy, always clean shaven like razor close. His hair was short and neat, right around his ears, and his head was shaped like a preacher's, all smooth on top. He had long, skinny legs, like a stick, no muscle at all. He was a pro at running the farm, knew everything about the crops, animals, and supplies. Nobody could catch him slipping on the books. He could even tell if the crops were going to be good or bad based on the weather. The guy managed everything: sheep, cows, pigs, horses, all the farm stuff. He kept track of everything for his boss and never made a mistake. He knew when people were trying to cheat and they were scared of him. His house was pretty nice in a cool spot with trees around it. Honestly, he was richer than his boss. He made his boss happy, so he got some things in the form of clothes, but nothing crazy. Back in the day, he was a carpenter and was really good at it. He had a horse, a gray one named Scout, that was super fast. He wore a long blue coat and had a rusty sword by his side. He was from Norfolk, near Badeswell, and always rode at the back of the group. So there was this dude, a summoner, with a face as red as fire, like he had been in the sun too long. His skin was messed up, all covered in rashes and boils, and his eyes were tiny and always looking shady. He looked kind of sketchy, and kids were actually scared of him. He loved garlic, onions, leeks, and chugging wine that was super strong and red like blood. When he'd drink a lot, he'd get all crazy and start shouting in Latin, like he knew some secret language. He'd throw out some fancy Latin phrases, but honestly, he didn't know much else. Just a few words from some old law stuff he'd picked up. But really, he was just using it to sound important. This guy was a hustler, though. If someone needed something done, he'd totally help out for a price. He even let someone borrow his concubine, that's a side chick, for a year, no problem. But he'd made sure the guy paid up because he knew the rules and how to make a quick buck. He also had a way of getting the inside scoop on everyone, especially the young boys and girls, knew all their secrets. He rode around wearing a big wealth on his head like some kind of party crown, and carry around a weird shield made of bread. Total oddball. So this dude, a partner, was rolling with the summoner. He'd just come back from Rome, flashing all of his fancy gear. He'd been singing some corny come hither love jams while the summoner was hyping him up. They made a racket like a busted horn. The partner's hair was like wax, super blonde, but straggly, hanging down like wet noodles. He didn't wear a hood, rocking that no-care vibe, just a cap on his head, looking like he walked straight out of the latest fashion trend, though he was definitely a hot mess. He had these creepy shiny eyes like a rabbit or something, and his face was baby smooth, like he'd just shaved. For real, dude could have been a gelding, that's a castrated horse, or a mare, no joke. Now in his bag, total scammer gear. He had a piece of Our Lady's veil, totally fake, some random bones in a bottle, and a cross with fake jewels. He'd sell you some bogus relic and get more cash from you in one day than you'd make in 2 months. Classic hustle. But he knew how to work the crowd. Dude could preach and sing his heart out, especially at church when he bailed out the offertory. He knew that once he got the congregation all hyped with the singing, he could hit them up for cash. And you know what? He did it well, making all the church folks buy his nonsense with his smooth talk and that polished delivery. Total pro scam artist. All right, so I gave you the quick rundown of the crew that rolled up to the Tavern Inn in Southwark. Now let me tell you how we all acted that night when we got there. After that, I'll dive into the full story of our pilgrimage together. But hey, don't judge me for keeping it real, okay? I'm just telling you exactly what went down, how the crew talked, and what they were about. And yeah, I might not sugarcoat things. I'm not lying or making stuff up. You know how it goes when you're telling a story, right? You gotta stick to the facts, even if it's a little rough around the edges. Can't leave anything out, even if it's awkward or uncomfortable. Because if you do, it's not the real story. Christ didn't hold back in his words, and he said what he meant, right? So that's how I'm gonna do, just like he did. Also, don't hate if I didn't go all fancy and put people in their proper ranks or titles. My brain may not be that sharp, so I'm just telling it as I remember. Our host was super chill, making sure everyone had a good time. He set up with an awesome dinner, and the wine was strong and tasty. This dude was a solid guy. He could have been the head honcho at any fancy event. He was big, with these intense eyes, the kind of guy you'd expect to see rocking in Cheapside. He had this bold, confident way of talking, was super smart, and wasn't lacking in the manly department at all. And yo, he was hilarious too. After we ate, he was all about the fun and games, talking about good times and throwing around some jokes. Once we all paid up, he was like, all right, y'all, seriously, you're all super welcome here. And I'm not lying when I say I haven't had a better group come through here this year. I'm down to make your night awesome, and I've got a game in mind that won't cost you a thing. So, yo, you're heading to Canterbury. Bet. Good luck, and maybe Bless Martyr have your back. I know for sure as you're cruising, you'll be telling epic stories and keeping it lit, because no one wants to be riding in silence like some stone, right? So here's the play. I'm going to hook you up with the game to keep it fun. You're down and everyone's cool with it, and you're ready to roll with my plan tomorrow, when we're on the road, I swear on my dad's spirit, rest in peace. If you're not vibing, you can take my head. Just hit me with your hands up if you're in, and let's not drag this out. All right, everyone was down with it, no questions asked. We all agreed, no need to overthink, and just told him to drop the plan. So here's what he said. Yo, here's the deal. Don't take it the wrong way, but here's the game. Each of you to pass time has to tell 2 stories on the way to Canterbury. And then when we're heading back, drop another 2, all about stuff that's happened to you. Whoever tells the best stories, like the funniest, the most interesting, will get a free supper paid for by everyone else when we get back here. I'll even ride with you and cover my own tab as your guide. But if anyone tries to break the rules, they're paying for everything on the trip. So if you're in, tell me now, or if not, speak up. I'm ready either way. That's it. We all gave the green light, swore our oaths, and were totally down. We told him to be the boss, judging our stories and setting up the dinner price. Everyone was cool with it, just rolling with whatever he said. Then the drinks came, we all toasted, and after that we dipped and hit the hay. The next morning, as soon as the sun came up, our host jumped up like a rooster and got us all together. We started riding just at a slow pace until we reached St. Thomas's watering place. There the host pulled the horses to a stop and said, "All right, everyone, listen up. Remember what we agreed last night. If we're all in it together, let's decide who goes first. Whoever doesn't follow my lead is paying for everything we get on the way." He told everyone to draw straws to see who goes first. The knight went first, then the lady prioress, then the clerk. Everyone drew, and by chance the knight got the shortest straw, and he was super happy about it. So it was his turn to tell the first story as agreed. He said, "Well, since it's my turn, let's get going." And we all rode off listening as he started telling his story.